At 9:02, Daniel Gafford draws an offensive foul on Jusuf Nurkić, and Bobby Karalla. Hell breaks loose from there because Jusuf Nurkić decided to be, you know what, and Naji Marshall and his teammates were sticking up for the guy, Daniel Gafford.
Yeah, Nurkić lowers his shoulder into Daniel Gafford's jaw. Gafford's on the ground, and someone said something to Nurkić as Nurkić is walking away. He's out near midcourt. There's 4 Mavs standing in the lane. Nurkić is pissed off because he's having a really bad game like he usually does. And he turns around.
Correction. He hasn't had bad games against Dallas this year. Tonight,
that's true.
He was awful.
That's true. So this is a break from routine for him.
That's right.
But he heard something he didn't like, turned around, and started walking toward 4 Mavs. Okay, in that moment, there's 4 of you and 1 of him, and he just committed what might have been a flagrant foul. And you said something to him, and he's getting in people's faces. And so Naji Marshall goes up and, gives him one of these, gives him a little shove.
He does.
Now, it was maybe more than a little shove. Nurkić didn't like it, and so he puts his palm right in Naji's dome.
It was like a half punch, half mush.
It was a swipe.
Yeah.
It was a swipe.
Yeah.
And
It
basically,
was a cradle.
Yeah,
it was a high-speed cradle.
He slaps the knife right across the face, and Naji took exception to that and decided to throw a punch. And violence is never the answer, okay? But if big 7-foot dude comes in and tries to bully you, you have 2 choices. Naji made the one that is a little more explosive. And it looked for about a half a second like Naji and Nurkić were about to go fisticuffs. Like they were about to settle this on the court. P.J. Washington comes and shoves Nurkić out of the way, which probably saved Naji about 10 games worth of suspension, if I can be honest. But for some idiotic reason, results in P.J. getting ejected from the game. And so the Suns' worst starter, one of their worst on-off players all season, gets 2 of the Mavericks' most important players in this game ejected.
3 of the Mavs' best players.
Yes.
3 of the Mavs got
that is a
best players
huge
all
win
got
for
ejected.
Phoenix.
Yeah, the Suns wish they could make half a trade half that good between now and February.
Yes, Stein. Wow.
They're trying like hell to get Nurkić off their team.
Look at Stein off the top
It was
rope.
such a ridiculous ruling.
But wait, hold on.
It's horrifyingly
hold on.
stupid.
You can't, even if you can't shove a player to the ground.
Correct.
So
The only
how
reason
how is that not an ejection?
Because Nurkić fell to the ground because he does what he always does. He feels a little contact and he falls down.
But
because he is 280 pounds of nothing.
Even if there was some flopping involved, I mean, it was a blatant shove in the middle of a scrum.
I agree.
It
I
didn't
still don't
warrant
think
an
he should have been
ejection,
ejected.
I thought.
Still don't
I'm not
think he
going to
should
lie
have
to
been
you. I
ejected.
thought the ejection was bad because you already had punches thrown by Nurkić and by Marshall. That's warranting an ejection immediately. The push warranted a technical for sure, but an ejection I don't think was necessary. They went from no technical to straight ejection.
Well, I think the refs are looking at it like if now a third person's in, then it could escalate from there. So I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
It didn't come anywhere close to the ferociousness of the swipe and what Naji was trying to do had his punch landed, but it is still.
Which is why I thought the ejection was a little much. The technical I thought would have been appropriate.
I just think it
given the
sends a
situation.
really first off, this is about morality, right? One of them attacks one of mine. What am I supposed to do? This is the game. This is a teamwork game, right? Their biggest guy just tried to bully one of my teammates. Like, I'm not going to let that happen.
Had a Sun shoved PJ to the ground, you would have been like, okay, cool tech.
Well, if PJ shoves Nurkić and then a Suns player shoves PJ, those 2 guys are probably fighting. So, I think my bigger issue is that the harsher punishment, or in this case, an excessively, in my opinion, harsh punishment, always goes on the guy that reacts to the belligerent D-bag that made this whole thing happen. If Nurkić just walks down the floor and holds his L like the loser that he is, then none of that would have happened. But that guy has such a short temper and such an inferiority complex that he took exception to something that P.J. Washington said, and it results in 2 Mavs getting suspended.
I'm getting the vibe you do not want Dallas to trade for Nurkić.
I hate watching that guy play basketball. He is such a malcontent. He is such a nuisance on the floor all of the time.
Cook, Bobby.
He's at the center of every single tiff that ever happens with any team that he's on. And he's such a soft guy on social, too.
Cook, Bobby.
He's probably going to find this clip and tweet about me. You're welcome for making you more relevant than you deserve to be.
Cook, Bobby.
The provocation was always on him.
I'm sorry for making this show about me.
The physical provocation was him walking back. There is verbal provocation that happens in every single NBA game, every single quarter of every single NBA game. There's taunts, there's people talking back and forth. The physical provocation that started the whole thing was Nurkić walking back into the play. And the other
After
thing
committing a really dirty foul, like not dirty, but just.
And the other thing we're forgetting, Phoenix got a free throw out of it.
Yes,
they did.
And so I actually come down on I think that Nurkić just flopped on over.
How does the whole chat room know every bit of show terminology we have? Tanner, make that a short.
I think if Nurkić, like the big boy he's supposed to be, the beefy Bosnian beast, as is his Twitter handle.
Wow,
I think
that's
if he
some
takes
alliteration.
2 steps backwards, as a big man who just got shoved, is most likely to do in any situation where he's not going to be rewarded for falling down. If he takes 2 steps backward, then P.J. Washington stays in the game. But I think, to me, even the bigger issue is that the punishment doled out. Okay, so if you deem that P.J. Washington has to be ejected, okay, whatever, fine. There is no scenario where the provoker, the team of the provoker should get a free throw out of that exchange.
Yeah.
It's all his fault.
It's also technical. It's also the rule book says this. Like the NBA has done this. So think back to when Kristaps Porzingis got ejected from the playoffs against the Clippers.
Terrible moment.
An atrocious moment. That was
coming in to help his teammate. He's helping his teammate.
He was in the first one. The first one was because he what did he do? He
fist air punch.
That's right. Air punch. And so the NBA is like, well, what if we just define everything in legalese? Then we will solve it, and there will be no bias, and there will be no room for interpretation. I remember writing a long column about it then. The NBA has tried to solve this because they've tried to put legal terminology into every single action they think can happen, and they've taken out of the referee's discretion. I think, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, reasonable discretion would say, in no way should the punishment favor the Phoenix Suns because of what Nurkić did. But the NBA has stripped them of that autonomy. They said, you have to obey the rules because this way we don't look, biased towards one team or another. This is what their rules say. Well, you know what you look like instead? You look soft.
Cooked him.
You look soft. You look so soft.
Which is the problem with the league right now, optically speaking.
Yeah, everybody's talking about ratings and threes and all this stuff. Yeah, well, another thing is that, you don't let people play defense and you don't let a shove go around. If you have to eject him for that, whatever. I think that's soft. That is going to come across as soft. If you choose that you are just going to be a league that gets portrayed in that way sometimes, that is a choice you're making. But I just hate that the autonomy has been taken out of the referee's discretion to come up with some sort of punishment, that ultimately, inflicts what should be, a punishment on Phoenix and Nurkić, Nurkic's team, and then all of a sudden, it's Phoenix that literally was rewarded for it. Literally, Phoenix Suns fans are on Twitter saying this was the best play Nurkić made all year.
I mean, in a lot of ways, it was based off. Look, the Mavericks were the ones that were able to hold themselves together after that initial moment. Yes, the Suns made that 12-2 run to cut it to 8 going into the fourth quarter, but the Mavericks initially were able to respond better. And I'll say this quickly on the whole situation as well. Okay, so Naji Marshall and Nurkić get the double technicals. That should have been what we like to call in the NFL, Bobby, offsetting penalties, okay?
Right.
Nobody gets a free throw there. Obviously, the free throw was awarded because P.J. got the technical and got ejected. So now with no one else getting a technical foul.
And he absolutely should have got a tech.
The tech would have been warranted. It was fine. The ejection was, to me, overkill. But that's where they get the awarded free throw.
Why couldn't they have just given him 2 techs? I don't know. Just make it up. Give Nurkić 2 techs, and that at least equals everything out.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
There should not have been a free throw shot because of that.
Well, yeah, well, I'm saying...
certainly, at minimum, none in either direction.
Well,
at
yeah.
minimum.
Well, if it had just been Nurkić and Marshall getting the double technicals, that washes it out. Everybody wash your hands and let's continue to play.
If only pool reporter Tim Cato was in Phoenix tonight to ask these questions.
Get someone on the scene. I do want to go back to something that Jared said in the chat. So Jared said, here's a trick to not get ejected. Don't push a guy. Jared, you're absolutely right. I just said violence is not the answer.
Well,
However,
I
would say if you don't want there to be a fight, don't be a 7-foot softy and turn around when someone hurts your fifis. Don't create a problem. Walk down the court and hold your L like the loser you are. I just went over this. Nurkić caused that problem to happen.
He got the line in, Tanner. He got it in.
Don't cry over spilled milk, but don't spill the milk. How about if I say something that makes you mad and then you get mad and like yell back at me? It's my fault because I said something mean to you. Like I created the situation.
Yeah,
right?
Nurkić was the one that initiated all this.
If you
with
can't
the
say the Heat, get out of the kitchen.
Yeah, with the offensive foul, like you basically elbow Daniel Gafford in the face. Like what?
Which again,
the question I have is
the league is at a point now, Kevin, where if there wasn't any sort of conflict after that play, they probably would have reviewed that play.
Exactly.
That's how sensitive everything is, and I believe rightfully so because injuries are bad. Okay, I think we can all agree injuries suck, violent plays suck. It's a very dangerous sport, despite what all the football-loving haters on Twitter want to tell you that the NBA is so soft or whatever. They would have reviewed that play, and Nurkić probably gets a flagrant foul.
Yeah, he probably
elbowing Gafford in the dome. All right, but instead he takes it one step further and actually gives his team a massive advantage the rest of the game. So we spent most of the second half begging Spencer Dinwiddie to punch his son in the face to help the Mavs have a chance to win.
I've got a solution. Dallas should have been able to choose who got ejected from the Suns roster.
Ooh, I like that.
So they're like, no, actually, you can keep Nurkić in. We actually want him on the court. Maybe the Suns get to protect one player, so it can't be Durant. But you're like, Tyus Jones, you're out of here.
You're out of here. Royce O'Neal, get gone.
Yeah. That would be fair to me.
Either
It'd be funny.
way, the Mavericks were the ones that were able to hold it together down the stretch because the Mavericks were inviting the Suns to take this game. The Suns decided that they wanted to make a shot, did not want to make a shot tonight, and the Mavericks were able to get it done and make the plays they needed to. Shout out to Ben Selheim with the $4.99 super chat before we take our break here. Naji should update his bio. God first, these hands second.
That's
because
good. That's
Naji
really good.
threw them hands tonight. Get these hands, Braun Strowman. That's exactly what happened tonight as Naji Marshall.
I forgot who, but somebody was saying your arm's too short to box with God.
That's a Nas line. Shout out to Katya. That's a Nas line. Your arms are just too short to box with God. That's a classic Nas line, actually.
KD, by the way, said, I'm sorry. He said, quote, "You hate to see that in this game. Unfortunate situation, but I understood both. I understood what Dallas was thinking, their perspective." He's not even defending his own teammate. That is what he thinks about his own teammate.
No, KD just knows the rules. Like, what did he think was going to happen? Your guy got elbowed somebody in the face. You didn't think somebody was going to stick up, not going to stick up for him? Like, come on, man.
And he understands that.
Yeah, KD know the rules.
KD's like, if Nurkić slapped me, I know that I would hope all my boys come help me against that bum.
That's how it works. Them's the
I'm
breaks.
sorry, I've been really mean to him in this. I'm sorry.
Those are the rules.
We all silly like the mayor.